Before we can actually print something, though, we have to make sure that we have printers installed. Remember that printers are pieces of hardware, and until the computer recognizes that hardware exists, you can't send something to a printer that doesn't exist. So let's take a look at how we can see what our system printers are and if they are available. Now, once again, there's going to be a couple of different ways to do this, but from any of your operating systems, you're going to go to the Start button. If you're using Windows XP, you want to go to Control Panel and double-click the Printers option. In Windows Vista or Windows 7, we can simply type Printers. Now, they have changed this a little bit even between Windows Vista and Windows 7. In Windows 7, they have a new window called Devices and Printers that combines both printers with other pieces of hardware. In Windows XP and in Windows Vista, you will simply have a Printers window that only shows you printers. I'm going to go ahead and press Enter to show my Devices and Printers window. And that allows us to very easily see all of the hardware that's connected to this particular computer. At the top, we can see that there are certain devices. Now, we're not worried about external devices, but they do include things like external hard drives, USB disks, and even my monitor. Instead, we want to come down to the section that says Printers and Faxes, and it nicely tells us that currently there are 4 installed to this computer. One thing I want to mention is that having a printer installed does not necessarily mean it's physically connected to your computer. For example, I can have a fax machine that I use at home, and I also may have another printer called HP Color LaserJet that are part of my home office. And then when I go to my regular office, that's where I may have these other printers, including an HP Color LaserJet 2800 Series PS. The Microsoft XPS document writer is actually known as a system printer. It's something that my software uses to do special output. Again, that's a topic for different discussions. What we need to know here, though, is that even though I'm seeing 4 printers listed, it doesn't necessarily mean that I have 4 printers physically attached to my computer right now. With that said, the one thing that I can do is also take a look for the check mark. The check mark tells me which one of these printers is set as the default. The default printer means that when I click on the print option using any variety of methods, then this is going to be the one that it chooses first. Now, I will always have the opportunity to choose another one, but by setting your default printer appropriately, it saves you one step in the print process. Right now, we can see that the HP Color Laser is set as the default printer. If I wanted to change that, I could simply right-click on any one of my other printers and choose Set as Default Printer. You can see that it may take just a few seconds, but then the check mark is applied to that printer instead. I'm going to put that back, just so you can see it again, to my HP Color LaserJet by right-clicking and choosing Set as Default. The default printer is probably one of the most important settings once you have a printer installed, but there are also other settings, and to get to those, I'm going to double-click the printer. In Windows 7, this opens up a window that actually gives me a lot of different options as well as some information. In prior versions of Windows, you'll probably just see a simple window that we'll get to in just a second. In Windows 7, I actually can see a lot of really useful information here. At the top of the screen, it actually gives me the name of the printer, HP Color Laser. It tells me what the type of printer is. Now, the reason for that is when you install the printer, you can create a short name, which is HP Color LaserJet. The actual name of the printer and the driver or the software that makes it work is HP Color LaserJet 2605, 2605DN, 2605DTN PS. That definitely is too long, which is why you're allowed to create an alias or a second name for it. Below the physical printer description, I can also see that currently there are 0 documents in the queue, meaning there's nothing waiting to be printed, that the printer is ready to use, and that it's currently set for letter-size paper in a portrait orientation. Now, all of those things are the defaults, and that's what I want to work with. So the next thing I'm going to do is double-click on Adjust Print Options. This will adjust the default for the printer. Depending on which printer you're looking at, this box will look very different because all of your printers have different options from different manufacturers. I'm not going to talk about all of these features. That's something that you can take a look at or go through your user guide. But a couple of things that we want to take a look at include the size of the paper. By default, I work on letter size or 8.5 by 11 paper. If I worked in a legal firm, or if I worked for maybe an engineering company that used larger paper, I could choose all kinds of different paper sizes that would become the default. I'm going to leave this as letter. I also could choose which tray, if I have multiple paper trays on my printer, that I want it to come from. So I could say I always want it to come from the manual feed, or from tray 1, tray 2, tray 3, and so forth. Remember, here we're only setting the defaults, and I actually can override all of this with each individual print job that I send. The other option that I really like in this particular printer is on the Finishing tab. If I click Finishing at the top, this is where I can choose to make the default be duplex printing. In other words, by default, print on both sides of the page. As you look through this particular screen, you'll see that there are certain options, but duplexing is not one of them. Here's a little hint for you. First of all, not all printers offer duplexing, but even if they do, sometimes the duplexing needs to be turned on in a different place before it becomes available in the Printing Preferences dialog. So remember that you always have the option to set your defaults. And I'm going to go ahead and cancel out so that we don't save any of these. In Windows 7, we can get to the defaults by double-clicking the printer and then double-clicking Adjust Printer Options. We also can go up and customize things like the name of the printer. So if I don't like HP Color Laser, I can adjust that. I can also set security and other properties. For now, what I want to show you, though, is a second window. And in Windows 7, we get to that by double-clicking See What's Printing. For Windows Vista and Windows XP, this is the window that you'll see when you initially double-click the printer from the printer's window. This actually isn't very interesting at the moment, but this is called the print queue. When you have multiple print jobs waiting to go to the printer, they will all be listed here. And you can see what the name of the document is, what its current status is, for example, it's printing or maybe it needs a different size of paper, who sent it to the printer, how many pages, and the size. This is really nice in an office because if you're waiting for a print job to come out and you keep walking over to the printer and yours isn't there, you can open the print queue and go, aha! That's because Susan has just sent a 59,000 page document and it's going to take 40 minutes for that to print. What I wanted to show you here, though, is not only that ultimately you'll be able to see print jobs, but also that there are a couple of menus. One about individual documents if they were in the queue, and the second about the printer as a whole. If I click the printer menu, I can change the default here, but I can also work with some different options, such as pausing the printer or canceling all of the documents that are currently in the queue. So if I had an issue, for example, if I needed to change toner or maybe I needed to add paper, I might want to simply pause the printing jobs. If I wanted to get rid of all of them, maybe I sent a bunch of stuff and then realized that I shouldn't have sent them and I don't want to print them, I can cancel those. We'll actually take a look at that in just a second. For now, I'm going to click Pause Printing. Now you'll notice in the title bar that it tells me the HP Color LaserJet printer is paused. Just want you to keep that in mind for a few minutes. And I'm going to go ahead and simply minimize this window. I'm not going to close it. I'm just going to minimize it down to the taskbar. Then I'm going to go back to my Devices and Printers window. And I'm going to do that by using the Back button on the top left of my window. Windows Vista users will also have the Back button. Windows XP users will need to use the Up button, the up one level. There we go. And now we're back to looking at our printers.